Let's talk a bunch of different topics.
How'd her career get there?
This is a podcast with Lauren Asghari.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening. Hit that like button, leave a positive comment, or hit subscribe to get alerted when new episodes drop. All of this will help keep the project going. Thank you for your support and enjoy the episode. This is the Lauren Asghari podcast, How'd Her Career Get There? And my guest today is Hannah Shuman, who is the president and CEO of Tricerat, a philanthropy volunteer at Barks, which is an animal rescue, a champion for women in STEM, particularly end-user computing, which we'll get to in the episode, and also a mom of two, which is always one of my favorite things to introduce and such a wonderful thing. So welcome, Hannah.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
So let's get started. Let's do kind of a quick overview on what Tricerat is, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds great. So Tricerat is a print management software company. We're headquartered in Baltimore, Maryland. We primarily service large enterprise and healthcare, financial, legal firms that have high impact needs for printing. So printing is extremely critical to their organization. And so our software's goal is to take the IT admin away from printing. So our goal is actually not to have our system administrators living in our software. We actually want them to have time away from the printing processes. So our entire goal since our inception in 1997 was to make the lives of IT admins better so that they can focus on their company's missions and not things like printing errors and printing tickets at the help desk.
And we're going to circle back in this episode about how you got to the role that you're in. I know there's a great story there. But let's first get in our time machine. Let's go back to Hannah when she was a young girl. Where are you from? How did you grow up? Only child, siblings? Like give a little bit of context as to kind of what shaped you as a child as to the woman that you are today.
Oh my gosh. So I've been in Baltimore my entire life. I had an older brother. He was 3.5 years older than me. And we grew up in a very close-knit family environment. My father and mother were very involved. We had a very open household. So therapy was big in our house. And as a child, I grew up just being very close to my parents and very close to my brother. I was a very shy child, though, very reserved. And I guess I would define myself as very cautious. So things were always calculated in my life. I was a very risk averse type of child. And my brother was very wild, and he was the risk taker, and he had like the loud voice for us in the clan.
And how, when you were a young girl, did you think like, when I always air quote grow up, but when you get older, like this is the type of work that I want to do. Like what types of things interested you as a kid?
I think I was pretty entrepreneurial as a kid. Like I was not very athletic. Like I was not the kid that wanted to go outside and play capture the flag with everyone. I didn't want to feel like I was like performing or doing anything physical that just wasn't me. I was oftentimes like building business plans on computers with my best friend, Jackie. I can remember like starting a newspaper or like thinking up business plans with her for just random things that we were interested in at the time. So I, looking back, I think I had a lot of that entrepreneurial interest, but I was also really into animals. Like I really wanted to. When I was little, I wanted to be a veterinarian. That was my dream. I wanted to help others, and I wanted to help animals. So I was a little bit all over the place, but I think thinking back to my childhood, I was always very interested in building something in the background a little bit.
And then take us through I think that you did, but where you went to college and what you studied there, and then kind of from that to whatever your first job was.
So I studied at Loyola University, Maryland, and I got my degree in business information systems. It was great. Awesome experience there. I absolutely loved it. Really because my professors were so fantastic. And I loved the small setting of the classes. I went to Hereford High School as well, and that was a smaller school. So it kind of transcended into college, that same experience. So I really developed deep relationships with my professors. And I loved the small education setting there. I was originally a biology major, and I quickly found out that wasn't for me. So I switched to MIS. I got my degree there, and I had to do an internship my junior year of college as a part of my degree. And that is when I started at Tricerat. So I took an internship.
And when we
had at Loyola.
And when you were in college studying, like what pulled you towards information systems? Because biology, information systems, I mean, they both have obviously technical aptitude to the approach of them, but then are obviously can take you on two different career paths. What pulled you there?
So I grew up around computers. We were the household. Like all of my friends, everyone in the neighborhood, anyone would tell you this. If you asked, oh, how was it like in the Byrne household? We had all the latest computers. My dad was so into them. He's really into video games too. And so there's a picture of me as like, I have to send it to you. I was probably 6 months old, like just starting to eat solids and like sitting up. And I was on my dad's lap playing Baby Smash on an old Apple computer with like the floppy disks in the background. So this is not unique to kids today, but when I grew up, that was really unique. So that was a really different thing. And so technology was always around me. And the reason I switched from biology was because I quickly realized it was like turning me into a hypochondriac. I didn't love it, actually. I thought I would. And so I thought, I'm really interested in technology. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna take that route.
What are the traits from childhood? And I ask this through the lens of from your parents collectively, from your parents as individuals, or some other significant adult figure in your life. What were the traits from childhood that you remember, not that you maybe were naturally born with, but either that your parents encouraged or that you remember thinking, I learned this from my dad, I learned this from my mom, and they still carry with you and serve you today?
Oh my gosh. Powerhouse. They had talk about like their different competitive advantages, wildly different people. And I totally see those different sides in me. My dad was and is so decisive, and he's analytical, and he's so scientific, and he just wanted to introduce me to science, to technology. We talked about politics a lot. Like we really did. We talked a lot about heavy things. My dad he is such an intellectual, and growing up, I mean, it was really important to him that we were having a lot of like intellectual conversations and talking about these things. And my mom is such an empathetic human. I mean, she's like, got the biggest heart of anyone I know. And she's my best friend. Like I talk to her every morning. And she's that person in the room. She's so warm. And she taught me, to always think of others. You have to be thoughtful. You have to write a thank you note. You have to do right by people, and you have to stand up for people that need your help. So I was often that kid in school who like saw someone getting bullied, and I would stand up for them. Those are the things that my mother really ingrained in me. And so I absolutely see both sides of them in me today and in my leadership.
So as we go forward, so you started it as Tricerat as an intern, and fast forward many, many years later, and you're the president and CEO there. We'll get to the different, lifts that come with being president and a CEO. But talk a little bit just about that that progression, and give some context into, family side of it and just what your progression or journey looked like there.
So I really didn't think I was going to be an intern. My father was one of the founders of the company. And he came to me my junior year when I was looking, to start my internship program. And he said, listen, I really want you to come try. Just come be an intern. Just see what you think. I created this from scratch. I'd be remiss not to invite you to be a part of it. I want to share this with my family. And so just to give you some context in that conversation, my father has a very estranged relationship with his family. And so his relationship dynamic with me and, and his duty as a father, like this was so big for him, for the possibility to be able to work with one of his children. So I said, okay, but it has to be the worst job. Like I can't, I cannot come in, with people thinking I have some like really exciting job. I want to learn from the ground up. Now, I grew up, my father started the company when I was 7. So I grew up around Tricerat. We talked about work. Both of my parents were working parents. So work was really important in our family. So I kind of came in like already knowing so much. Anyway, so I said, let's do it. I'll do it. Fine. I'll be an intern. And my first day was absolutely horrible. It was like so bad. He brings me in and he drops me off in the marketing department. And he said, she's here to work. Just give her anything. Like we can find something for her to do. And the woman at the time looks at me and she goes, what am I going to do with you? That's what she said to me. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I'm so excited. I have so many things that I have ideas. I was like bursting at the seams because I was coming from college. Like everything was so exciting to me.
Right.
And so anyway, it started off with that tone, which is what I was so afraid of because in school, I had achieved a lot and no one looked at me as John Burns' daughter. Like I did all of those things myself. And so I was stepping into this environment where people wanted me to fail from day one. They really did. And so anyway, I just worked really hard. I just came in and I worked really hard and I didn't know what I was doing at first. She gave me a really hard task. I had no idea what to do. I was completely alone and isolated in my first project, but I figured it out. And, and I came up with a really creative email marketing campaign. And it was okay, right? It was fine. Everything was fine. So anyway, I just worked as much as I possibly could, probably too much, and over communicated too much because I really wanted to prove myself from that point on. And from there, I learned every piece of the company. And so I had this great advantage of having different lenses. So I started in marketing and I really kind of stayed in marketing and business intelligence, but I've touched every department at the company. And so it's been a really exciting journey through my various roles. And now as president and CEO, it's the burner is really hot still. Like it's still there.
What when you were younger, did this conversation come up for you or your brother about like, did your dad ever plant the seed like, hey, I'd like to have one of you guys in the business, just given like his, his family dynamics and obviously what he had built? Or was it really college time where it started to, like, was that even an option for you going into college? Did you think about it that way?
No. And actually, he really wanted me to go into science at first. And then when I switched degrees, he was kind of saying, okay, like, she could probably enjoy this. I think he wanted to let me kind of go on my own way. And as I got closer to technology, it was more organic for him to kind of pitch this idea to me. But I always told him like, I'm not going to be part of the family business. That's just not going to That's not going to happen. And my brother was never interested. He never wanted to work for Tricerat. He was not for him at all. He was a very artistic human. He passed away 2 years ago, actually. And he was very artistic and he was very creative. He was a singer. He had a beautiful voice. He wanted to go into the arts. So that conversation never really was open.
I'm sorry to hear that about your brother. It could not have been easy.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. For your, so there's a couple different directions. I'm going to bounce around here a little bit because I think that there is tremendous value in your story for the part of the audience that has the family business, right? That's debating, should I do it? Should I not do it? You have the younger generation. I hear this all the time, right? The younger generation with the older generation, just how smooth that can go, or can that be point of contention, right? So I want to go to the family business side of it, and then talk about just kind of being a CEO and president of a company in general, because that comes with a whole different set of wonderful opportunities and challenges. So to the people out there that are in a family business or debating, maybe bringing one of their children into a family business, or the child who is debating if they want to go into it, I'm going to ask this question in two parts. What do you think your dad really did right? What do you think you really did right? And if we're fast forwarding, 30 years down the road and you were doing this for your kids, would you do anything differently than how you and your dad did the transition?
I think you really have to be ready to have your relationship have the ups and downs that go into running a corporation. It's extremely, as you know, it's exceedingly stressful. This is not fun. This is not, as much as I want to say it's the most fulfilling experience, because it's been such a fulfilling experience, it's hard. So make sure your relationship is solid and is ready. It's kind of like a marriage, right? You want to check those boxes. You want to talk about if you want children and what would finances be like, and how would we run our household? You want to make sure that foundation is really strong. Because if it's not, I would suggest, if you do want to get in, to your family's business, and maybe work with a parent or a sibling or whomever in your family, do that work to think through, is our relationship capable for those ups and downs that come with running a business? And if it's not, explore doing the work with a family therapist. I mean, do what you need to do to make it work, because it's totally possible and it can be really great.
What is something that you think your dad really nailed with getting you incorporated into the business that was really helpful for you?
He threw me into the deep end, for better or for worse. He really didn't give me I will say he didn't give me a ton of guidance. When I told him, I want to work really hard, he was like, okay, go figure it out. Go be the intern. And so he was always available to me, though. I would, I'd call him on the way home. I really, really rarely would go into his office or anything. I might call him on the way home. I'd say Dad, I've got this issue or whatever. How would you navigate this? And he'd give me that space. He would give me the time. But I really liked the fact that he listened to me. My goal was to come in, just like I had in my experience with school, and create my own identity. And he allowed me to do that. So I think he did that really, really well. And that was foundational to our openness and our trust, from the get-go.
And how was, now switching to running a company, what's the best part about your job, and what's the underbelly that nobody really talks about or understands?
Well, I would say the underbelly, which also really motivates me at the same time, is just the emotional side of you've got your staff on your shoulders, these people and their families, and they rely on you. You are the central leader pushing this company forward. So I don't know if that's really the underbelly, but it's just the weight is always there. So that has been something I am a young leader. As a young leader, I've really had to do the work to take, because I do take on people's emotions so much, to take that and help that, motivate me. So that's really hard. And then of course there's all the stuff that like I personally hate dealing with, which is like, like the mundane, like I have to go to insurance meetings and things that are just so boring that like take up your whole day some days that no one from marketing or support really sees. And they're like, why don't you have time for this? And you're like, well, I'm stuck in the insurance meeting, so there's things like that, of course. And then the greatest thing is to see your team succeed, for me at least. Like I absolutely love when a direct report comes or like someone on my team comes to me and they've got a problem and we worked through it together and I see them come out on the other end. Like that is just the best part. I absolutely love seeing other people reach their goals.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to do, as the CEO and the president, like you get to do that for so many people at your company.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. It's like, and you said it there, and I would probably summarize it and say probably the exact two things, which is why I love that you said them. It's like it's the constant, when you run a company, it's like the constant load of responsibility that that nobody can really fully understand unless they do it. And you just feel accountable for so many different people's outcomes and the ripple effects of, okay, the decision that I make today, touches this employee, that then touches their family, that then touches, their children. Like, I think about that a lot and trying to always make the right decisions, but knowing like, man, you never really get to like let that go. It's like always, for me at least, it's like always there.
Yeah.
A little bit.
It's always there 100% of the time. And as a parent, like you feel that in your family too. So you've got a lot of people all of the time, 24/7, 365, relying on you. Mm-hmm. And you have to show up for them. Mm-hmm. And you love it, but it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And you nailed the best part of it, right? I mean, seeing other people win is like the best. I mean, and winning together with other people. Yeah, it's the best. What advice would you give your younger self? Or what's something that you wish, if I had known then what I know now?
Stop caring so much about people judging you or having the perfect idea. It's okay. Like it will be okay.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think that comes from for most people? And I'm going to ask this a different way. What was the moment for you, if you remember it, or the series of moments where that clicked for you? Because that's like a big unlock.
Yeah.
But what point in your life do you remember being like that? Okay, I see it clearly now that I should give less value to this type of thing.
When I was faced with adversity, actually like at more personally low points, I'm a pretty open person. My family and my husband's family, we've been through a lot in the past couple of years with family deaths, and I lost 2 babies with my husband during this time of trying to build and grow a business, and also having hardships in my business. All of this happening at one time, and I woke up one morning and I was like, I have these ideas, and I'm terrified to present them because I'm afraid of other people's reactions. Life is just too short. Like, I'm not going to hold back. Mm-hmm. And what was great in that click moment is I get into this meeting and I present these ideas that, about the product that I really wanted to change. And And I was so afraid of everyone's reactions, and everyone was really excited about it, actually. Like, I was so afraid of everyone's reactions, and then there is all this anticipatory anxiety. And at the other end of it, everyone was just really psyched about it and ready to go. And really, and it's funny because I just saw your LinkedIn post about what people want. They want strategic vision. They wanted strategic vision. And so they were really excited about my presentation. And all along, I spent worry is a debt I may never have to repay, right? Like it was just all worry. So that's
like
when
that
I
expression. Yeah, it's interesting how, and I haven't had, like the death of a sibling or close family member like that. But I can imagine, I can't even imagine, quite honestly. But, I've had like early like miscarriage, like similar thing. And it's one of the things like female business owners, or not even business owners, just women in the workplace, right? That you don't necessarily talk about, right? It's probably, and I even just talking with my girlfriends, like it's more common than people talk about. But it's true that like once something, and you don't want something like any of those things to happen to you to like make it be the click moment, but life just works that way sometimes. But it is interesting how like once you have those things, it is kind of like, okay, does it really matter if they don't like my presentation? Like they'll tell me and then I'll move on from it. It's a perspective shift. Yeah.
I think that it's very hard to have the skill set. And I see this in a lot of leaders I look up to. And I absolutely learned so much from our last conversation from you, even like having the skill set to say to yourself before a hard moment, I can get through this hard moment. Like I can do, that sounds kind of trite, but it's like, it's actually really tough to do. If you take stock on anxieties that we have throughout life, it's like, I can get through the tough conversation. It might not be fun. I can get through the big meeting. It might be tough, but I'm going to make it out on the other end. And seeing resilience on my personal side too, seeing like I could get out of this like really horrible situation. It's not going to be fun, but I survived it. Really made me realize like, yeah, you can do it.
Yeah. And building that muscle of resiliency, no matter how it then gets applied, right? Well, then it getting applied in the workplace. What is, let's talk a little bit about Tricerat. What, for people who are, interested in like elaborate a little bit more. I know you did a great job of a high level overview at the beginning about the company. For people who are maybe interested, like I'm thinking now we're speaking to, people in college or young professionals, right? And they're looking at like different avenues to go in their career. And they might think end user computing, okay, I'm not in IT. I don't necessarily like know what that is. Elaborate a little bit on what end user computing is, and then elaborate for people that maybe aren't as technical, what other type of industry, other types of professions or jobs, not necessarily at Tricerat, but just in general in the type of industry might be career paths or opportunities for people to kind of think about.
So an easy way to think about end user computing, like if you were just explain it to anyone in the grocery store, wherever in line, it's an industry that's comprised of companies that create tools for end users at organizations. So people literally, like the employees of companies, are using a series of tools to get their jobs done. So whether that is monitoring what they do day to day on their desktops, whether it's document management, printing, right? Scanning, all of these things that go into computing processes at an organization. So the lifeblood of what the IT department manages. And I almost think of it as like the best way. It's like a series of tools that are available to IT teams to purchase to enable their end users to do their jobs.
And what would be if someone, like when you look to hire somebody to to work at Tricerat, whether you or your team, but just from a company value standpoint, what are the traits that you look for in people, whether they're early in their career or making a shift? And are those traits different?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the job. Like in sales, we really look for coachability. Like, if you're looking to get into IT sales, like you don't have to know everything about technology to be great at IT sales. So really leveraging that coachability aspect, like that would be really important on the revenue side. And of course, there's hard skills for like someone who wants to break into software and, be a software developer on the engineering side of things. But at Tricerat, specifically in our culture, we're a small company. So we need people to be excited about having an entrepreneurial spirit. They need to be excited to wear multiple hats and to work cross-departmentally. So that's not for everyone. So we are really, really careful in our interview process to make sure that whoever we're interviewing is really excited about the idea of working. Like if they're applying in a marketing role, that they're excited to work with someone in development or accounting, right? So that's for a small, agile company. That's what we need. So it's a combination of hard and soft skills that we look for.
And what do you think if we're talking to now a portion of the audience that's maybe recent grad or getting into the workforce, what are some skills that you think are important for them to have? And I don't mean like, you have to be able to graphic design something, right? I mean like the soft skills, right? Like what are the things that, hey, no matter where you work universally, these things are generally good things, the tools to kind of have in your tool bag?
Drive is something that it's a skill, I think, that I've worked with a lot of people now that is practiced. That's huge. Coachability, openness to learning, all of these things will take you really far in your career. Really being humble and like excited to learn from others around you when you're just breaking into an industry and just starting out is so important.
What
it's
is
huge.
I'm bouncing all around with you, but you said something else and it made me think of another question that I wanted to make sure I asked you.
I bounce all around all the time. Like this is it's kind of hard for me. Like as a CEO, I've got to write everything down because I bounce around a lot.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you hanging with me because you're doing awesome. So, what is I'm going back to what you said earlier about like just kind of being like when you were in school, it seemed like you were very academic focused, right? How do you go from that to running a business where it's like, yes, there's systems and processes, you never know what's going to happen, what's going to change. It's far less predictable. Was that an adjustment for you? And is that still like an area of like, I have to be disciplined in my approach with it, or was that like an easier transition for you?
This was the hardest transition for me. Like I was telling you earlier, I was the risk-averse kid. I mean, I still am the risk-averse person, and that doesn't fit the typical profile. This is something I work on a daily basis. I was talking to my therapist about this last week. Yes, I go to therapy. I don't mind talking about it. I was talking to my therapist about this last week and I said, like, I'm having a really hard time right now because I want to make some quick decisions and I want more data than I have. I have this craving for more data. And he goes, well, you're just going to have to make a decision, aren't you? Like, you're just going to have to live with it. And so, I'm learning to live with uncertainty every second of every day. Mm-hmm. It's something I practice all the time.
It is, the last guest that we had on the episode was a licensed therapist because May was Mental Health Awareness Month. And I love talking about that. And I love successful, I say that I air quote success, right? Meaning, and that we'll get to that. That's a question that I have later. But, somebody running a company, right, has a mom of 2 kids, a wife, like all these things going on, does volunteer work, active in the community, and going to therapy. And I love highlighting those stories. I think that therapy should unfortunately it can be quite expensive, but almost like the gym, it's like a mental health, like keeping your mental health sharp. So I love that you talk about that. How has, so let's stay on that for just 1 minute. How has that helped in your, and maybe it goes back to resiliency, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. How has that helped you personally be a better professional? Like, how has working with therapy, do you feel that you would be the same leader if you if you weren't going to a therapist or had gone to therapy at different points in your life?
I think it has been monumental for me because personal life and work life, like people love talking about work-life balance and shutting down and going home and then, not thinking about work. But the reality is that's not the reality. Like these two worlds blend and they are your identity, at least mine. And so having my therapist there to help, it's like he cleanses my brain almost, right? Like I think of it as like weeding the garden. Like I need to do these things. And so he helps me with the skills that I need to be resilient in my leadership and to think in divergent ways. And it's great because he's coming from a totally different vantage point. I mean, he doesn't have the perspective that my coworker has or my husband has or a mentor from my industry has. Like he's coming purely from that supportive lens. And I would say that every professional should be open to the idea if they can and they have the resources to go into therapy.
You touched on something else there that I wanted to talk with you about, which is work life. I don't love the term work life balance either. I
hate it too.
Yeah, it's like integration or just life, right? But yeah. How do you look at and integrate the, as a working professional, and we'll stick working professional and mom, right? Not to mention husband, not to mention wife and daughter and all these other things. But how do you look at and how do you approach and how do you keep yourself sane when it comes to the work-life integration? Mom guilt is a real thing. I'm sure dad guilt might be too, by the way. I'm a mom, so I can't speak for dad guilt. But how do you give yourself grace in times where maybe you're showing up more for your family versus your work and vice versa? And how do you navigate through that?
Well, I think you just hit the nail on the head. Like, I don't believe that I believe you can have it all, like, but you can't have it all at the same time. Like, for example, my son was sick last week and we had to push this podcast. That is something before I had children that I would have totally beat myself up over, is like having to move an appointment. So there's little things like that happen all the time when you have children. But I think having the systems and having giving yourself like the room and the space to not be perfect at everything is really critical, because if you try to show up 100% of the time for everything at 110%, you're going to just guilt trip yourself all day long. So what I do is I do actually try to turn off my phone when I go home, or when I'm off work for the day. And I sit with my kids and I do magnet tiles for an hour.
I love kids are all
and I am
magnet tiles.
They're so fun.
Yeah,
I could do those all day with my son.
Yeah.
So I kids and young children, toddlers specifically, do a really great job being you present, and they remind you of being in the present moment. So like, I could have a really hard day at work and it's there, it's like in the back, but I'm going to sit and I'm going to do the hour of magnet tiles. Why? Because I need to do that to feel like I'm connecting with my children. And it's really important to me to be a present parent and connect with my children. But I'm also, freshly, I had my second 8 months ago. I'm finally getting to a point where I can exercise. So this is kind of a long-winded answer, and I'm sorry for that. I have so many ideas around this, but just don't judge yourself so much. Be okay with like the pile of laundry that might be collecting dust, in the corner. It's been there for like 2 months, however long, right? You're gonna get around to it. It's okay. Be okay with like not responding to that email immediately. Things aren't gonna shut down. Give yourself some grace. It's really hard to be a working parent. It's really hard to be a working parent that's running a business too. I mean, it's all of us are going through it, is my point. So give yourself some grace. And then if you can, get help where you need it. Like, don't be afraid to ask people for some help. You don't have to do all of it. You absolutely can ask for help, and you should. It should take a village.
I love that. I appreciate your thoughtfulness in that answer, because I think that will resonate with a lot of people. Because I think that it's a common, I get messages after doing this podcast from people listen to an episode, right? Oh, this like really resonated with me, or somebody said this, and we had gone through that exact same thing. And that like work-life integration thing is a topic that comes up pretty frequently.
Don't even talk to me about pumping. Like an integration. Right? Like pumping after that, after having a baby. Like we could have a whole podcast episode about that.
Oh yeah. I used to go, and this is how like, and I own my business, but there was nowhere in my office. I would like go to my car, like in a parking lot, and like watch something on my phone and just like, sit there for however long. We opened up a new office, and we have a couple moms in our office. So I was like, okay, we have a room now. It's got a nice fridge.
Yeah.
It's got a private area. But it is interesting how you just like, but it was important, right? If it's important to you. Some people, they might choose not to pump or not able to.
Which is fine too. That's great too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I quit 6 months in with my first. It was not for me. I'm not doing this full time. I don't have the energy. Feeding your baby is the only rule. That's all you have to do.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. 6 months is still pretty. That's pretty good. I mean, that's pretty far in. So
maybe I'm taking a deep breath, but yeah.
So let's go to, I'm going to get to rapid fire, and I have one more question before I do that. But before I get to my last question in my rapid fire, is there anything that we didn't cover so far that you want to cover or talk about?
I don't think so, Gosh, I feel like I'm so excited about all the things that we're talking about. And I could probably talk to you about them for hours, each of the things that we've discussed. But no, I feel really great. I feel really great about our conversation.
Good. Me too, by the way. I feel like we could just sit and talk for like, on all of these topics, there's like another 3 or 4 like threads to pull.
There's like, yeah, more deep dives to be had.
Yeah. So my last question before I get to kind of rapid fire is success. How do you define success?
Oh my goodness. I think I define success. I am fulfilled by helping other people find their why, which is really hard, by the way. I think it's a kind of a lifelong journey thing. But I said this earlier, the biggest wins that I feel at work are when my team wins. That's success for me. If I'm chasing a dollar figure or I'm chasing some sort of like superficial thing, there's always going to be more. That's insatiable, right? Like there's always going to be more that I could do. There's always going to be a better product, more money, more revenue, whatever. But if I can end my day saying other people around me are succeeding, we're making an impact for our customers are doing better because of our product. And by the way, like in healthcare organizations, it's critical, right? Like, so we work with some hospitals where it's like, if printing goes down, people aren't getting cancer treatment. So it's really serious stuff. And so I get really fulfilled when I get on a customer call and I'm like, okay, we helped you succeed today. That's how I define success. Personally.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And I love your passion in that with the purpose of, I mean, just the hospital as an example. It's like, and you can find work in a variety of industries and so many different jobs that are out there. It's like everybody has something to contribute, and it's like everything. Like I just think about this all the time. The ripple effect of what your company does in that example really matters to affecting somebody's life, and whether it comes to affecting their healthcare instantly or even like their mental piece of, okay, I was able to print this out and got the results on time, or, whatever it is that the hospital system does with it. But I think about that a lot. And I love you tying and connecting your company's purpose to that kind of ripple effect. I think it's
great. Huge. Even with like inequities, like there's a reason like paper is still extremely present in the hospital system. Not everyone has a phone, that they can log in. Like not all patients can do that. They need that printout, right? So there's use cases like that. And it really does. I mean, it trickles down into the community.
Mm-hmm. I lied. I said that was my last question. Now I have one more before I go to rapid fire. Talk a little bit about your just kind of championing or just passion, maybe is a better way to put it, but just about like women in STEM. And maybe just encouragement for people out there that are interested in STEM and maybe don't see as much opportunity for themselves.
I think we're getting better. But I still go to trade shows and events, and I'm on calls all day long, and I'm the only female in the room, or I'm one of two or three. When I was at Loyola, I can count on one hand, like in my degree, right, graduating. The females graduating with an IT degree. Now I know that was a while ago, and it's getting better, but it starts in the home. It starts really young. I don't think I would have gone into it had my dad not encouraged me to use computers and be excited about technology. I really don't, because I think back, to my friends or like how the dialogue was even in school, like we really are subtly pushed to go in different areas. And I would say like we all just really need to take stock at how we encourage kids growing up to go into different fields and encourage them to explore new ideas. But it can be very subtle, pushing someone into a different path. So that's my take on that. And I'm really, really excited to help increase female representation in not just the EUC space, but STEM at large.
I love that. I love the encouragement to explore. I think that's really it.
Just explore.
Yeah.
Open the doors.
Yeah, and then people naturally